Namaste, my name is Kant Kumar. Today I am going to tell you something about China. As we know that the 21st century is an era of great transformation. In 21st century, many developing country has emerged as a economic and military power of this world. These emerging countries are India, China, Brazil, and these countries are trying to establish a multipolar world to serve its economic and security interests. In this multipolar world, China and India holds a very significant position. India and China are two great countries, and this country holds a very significant position on this globe. India and China are economic and military power. As we know, since 2020, India and China relation has seen many ups and downs. The relation between India and China is not so good, since as we know that in this globalized world, in this multipolar world, each country are dependent on other country for resources. As we know that India is number one country in terms of population. China is second largest populated country. China is also a home country of high in technologies. India need Chinese supports Chinese technology to establish its manufacturing sectors. So, in this condition, India and China should mend its relation and should work towards strengthening the bilateral relation among themselves. As we know that India and China are neighboring country, for thousands of years, India and China has been connected through shared culture and customs. In ancient time, through Silk Road, India and China had established relations, and Buddhism is also worked as a connecting source to establish relation between India and China. India and China have a written history, a recorded history of more than 2000 years. So we can say that our relation is not made in present time, but it is established by our ancestors thousands years back. So India and China have 1000 years of history. Since India and China have 1000 years of history, and it has worked in a harmonious way for thousands of years. During Japanese war, India had sent medical mission to China to serve the people of China. But in current time, the relations between India and China have seen many ups and downs. So in these conditions, there is a need to amend or mend the relation between India and China. India and China is also a neighboring country. This makes India and China to mend its relations and to establish a harmonious and collaborative relations. Our former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee had said that we can change our friend, but we cannot change our neighbor. Since China is a neighbor, so it is impossible for India or China to replace its neighbor. We will be always in neighboring states, no matter what happens. In these conditions, and these conditions compels the both country to amend its relations for the good of the people and the stability of the society and the country. As our former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee had said that we can change our friends, but we cannot change our neighbors. And China is our neighboring country. So this condition makes both countries to have a good relations, to establish a harmonious relations which serves the interest of the country and the people. India, to establish a better relation with its neighboring country, India had initiated a policy, neighborhood first policies. The neighborhood first policy is India's strategic policies to engage with its immediate neighbors or neighboring regions to foster a special relation, to foster economic and cooperative relation among them. As we know that after 2020, India and China relation is not good. There is a need to mend the diplomatic relation between India and China. As we see the history, through history we can understand that many countries previously who had fought a war, who had fought a murderous war or bloody war, they established good relations among them. For an example, as we know that the World War II was started because Germany had attacked Poland. Currently, the relation between Poland and Germany is very good. Both countries are member of EU, European Union, and they are also allies of NATO. We can see the other example that, as we know that during World War II, Japan had bombed Pearl Harbor, and in retaliation, United States had bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and in this bombing millions of people were killed in Japan. Gradually, the relation between Japan and USA started improving, and in 1960s Japan and US signed a security agreement. Now USA is a sole security provider to Japan. Many times relationship gets worsened, but to establish the cooperation or foster a stability in country, a country need to amend the relation with the counterparts. Through the history, we have came through many such type of experience in which countries had fought bloody wars, but after recalibration or understanding the situation, they have mended the relations. The Japan also did the same thing in 1960. It amended its relation and signed a security agreement with USA. Now USA, United States of America, is sole security provider to Japan. Japan is also an ally to USA. The other example is that in the early period of Republic of India, the relation between India and USA was not good. Our relation was more close to Soviet Union. But as time passed, India and USA mended its relations, and in 2001, since the terms of George W. Bush, in many fields, India and USA are strengthening its cooperations. They are collaborating for the goods of the people. Through examples, we have come to know that many countries have mended its relations to the counterpart country, to the rival country, and they are working in a very harmonious way in contemporary times. So likewise, India and China can also amend its relations, because we are neighboring country and we have a history of more than thousands of years. Our historical connections makes India and China at a better positions to mend the relations. The historical records shows that we have more than 2000 years of connections. The advent of Buddhism in China from India in 1st century significantly boosted the cultural exchange between India and China. The famous Chinese monk Fa Xian visited India in the year of 399. He lived in India till 414. After that, the other famous Chinese monk Xuanzang visited India in the year of 630. He was in India till 645, and these visits strengthened the cultural exchange between these two countries. Chinese literature is a great source for knowing the Indian history. The preserved Chinese literature is a great source of research about India, and these connections makes us to think that the relations should be mended. So as we know that in ancient time or in medieval time, India and China had maintained a great relation among themselves. During Japanese war, we had sent the medical mission, we had sent some doctors to serve the peoples of China. Dr. Kutnis is respected all over China for his great service towards the Chinese people. So we know that our historical relation with China was great. So it makes us to think that why in 21st century India and China relation cannot be mended. And we should also think about that how the relation between India and China should be strengthened. As we know that in 21st century India and China are both emerging country. Both are emerging global power. In 21st century, India and China has emerged as a significant global power. We also know that the relationship between India and China is very complex. India and China are both interdependent economically. The relation between India and China is also characterized by geopolitical rivalry, particularly over the border disputes and regional influence. These two factors makes India and China at odd ends. As we know that India's political system is different. India and China have historical grievances, and India and China are also competing for the resources. Both countries also trying to have a position at global platforms. These conditions make these two countries opposite to each other. These situations creates substantial tension between these two countries. The other contentious point in India and China is a structural deficit. There is a great trade gap between India and China, since as we know that in this globalized world all countries are interdependent. India is also interdependent, China is also interdependent. India is heavily dependent on supply chain of China. For the technical things, India is heavily dependent on China. As we know that India is a growing country, a lot of companies have set up their production in India, but still we are in many ways dependent on China. As we know that in recent years many international companies have set up its base in India, and they are trying to make India a manufacturing hub. But India infrastructure is still developing. In many fields we are still dependent on Chinese supplies. In the financial year 2024 and 25, we had export of 38 billions of electronics good. In a smartphone our value addition is around 20%, but in other electronic sectors the value addition is much more than 20%. We can say that in some sectors, in some electronic sectors, the value addition is around 60%, or in some sectors it's 70%. In some sectors it's also around 40%. So On average, we can say that in India we are doing the value addition in electronics goods of about 50% for on an average. So around 50% of the value of the products we still need to be imported from the China and Taiwan and the other countries. In India, we mostly assemble the electronics gadgets. We import the parts. We imports the parts of the electronics and we assemble here and we export to the other country. So we can also say that the things or the goods we are exporting to other country is somehow also dependent on the value chain. Electronic exports of 38 billion which we are doing is heavily dependent on the supply sources. India is aiming to export around 200 billions of electronics goods by the year of 2030, and for this increment India need to do a lot of investment in manufacturing sector. We need to import a lot of machineries to manufacturing the goods, and these supplies are most of the supplies are originated from China. So in these conditions also compels India to establish good relation with China. The other reason to have a good relation with China is that, as we know, that India is known for its pharmaceuticals company, for manufacturing of the medicines. In the financial year of 2024-25, we had exported around 27 billions of medicines. In the financial years of 2024-25, India had exported around 27 billions of medicines. And for manufacturing of these medicines, India need API, the substance through which Indian companies manufactures the medicines. In the year of 2024-25 financial year, we had around 70% of API is being imported from China. If this supply chain will be disrupted, then India won't be able to manufacture medicine in competitive pricing. For an example, we are exporting of 27 billions of medicine and we are just importing 4 billions of API, which makes us to think that we are gaining from this trade deal. The trade between India and China remains vast. Chinese firms continue to supply everything like machinery to consumer electronics, while India pharmaceuticals and IT firms rely on predictable Chinese access. So both countries are interdependent on each other. In the year of 2025, we saw some diplomatic reset between India and China. India and China marked the 75 years of diplomatic ties with events and bilateral dialogues. In the year of 2024, some breakthrough agreements were reached between India and China, and India and China military was disengaged in late 2024 from Depsang and Demchok. In the year of 2024, the disengagement was done at the border area like Depsang and Demchok. The troops were withdrawn. In the year of 2025, the resumptions of dialogue mechanism started. In 2025-23, a special representative meeting was held to mend the relation between India and China. During BRICS meeting at Russia, Kazan, there was a sideline meetings between President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi in the year of 2024. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping also met on the sideline of SCO Summit August 2025. On 29th August 2025, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that India and China should work together to bring stability to the world economic order. Narendra Modi also said that India and China are two great economic power, and to bring the stability in world economy, these two countries must have to work together to bring the economic stability on this world. During August 2025 SCO meeting, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping agreed to start direct flight between India and China. The direct flight between India and China is going to be started after a gap of 5 years, and it is expected that by the end of 2025, by late 2025, the direct flight between India and China will resume, and this improvement will further strengthen the people to people connect between India and China, and it will help to strengthen the bilateral relations and people to people relation between India and China. Thank you.